Hey, welcome to the X Podcast. I'm so glad to have my friends with me today. I have Zach. Zach is back.
Whoa,
Yep.
Zach is back.
Look at the shirt.
I wear this shirt every time.
Yeah, every time you're on the this
It's my
podcast.
Wednesday shirt.
Okay, so we got Zach is
Wait,
with
hold
us.
on. Do you have your December pink socks on?
No.
Okay,
Okay.
and Russ is back.
I'm back.
Back
in
better
black.
than ever.
Back
Back in
in black.
black
Back
too,
in black.
as well. And it is the holidays. So happy
Holiday
holidays.
season.
Yeah.
Do you guys say happy holidays?
Happy holidays. I love to.
Do you say
I
happy
prefer
Hanukkah?
Merry
Or you
Xmas.
say Merry
I
Christmas,
say
or
Merry
do you say-
Christmas.
you do?
'Cause I want to keep.
Wait a minute.
Christmas
Okay, so
Christmas.
well, let's just go ahead and jump right in.
Let's, because
Let
there's
me
been a
ask
lot
this
of articles
question.
about this. There's nothing wrong with Xmas.
There is nothing wrong.
I don't think there's anything wrong.
Historically, it was
Historically.
not removing Jesus from Christmas.
It was not.
Yeah, I would agree.
Why?
And I saw a post the other day that said if you're really passionate about keeping Christ in Christmas, then feed the hungry,
I
clothe the poor.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we have a funny connection to that. Just our church is, and you got an X on your chest. So, anyways,
I
our church's name is X Church, and whenever people really ask, I mean, there's a lot of different kind of things that went into that, but I always
Right.
tell them that Chi, the Greek letter for X, capital X, represents Christ.
Yeah.
And you can even see that in the old Christendom logo with the X and the P. And so, we tell. So what's funny is, like, when you say Xmas, it's really Christmas,
Christmas,
right? It's really
right.
Christmas. You're not removing Christ, but that thought definitely still persists within a lot of people.
Yeah,
And they
sure.
feel like, you're secularizing this
Christmas.
very
Right.
secular holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of, we need to
Religious
keep
holiday.
Christ in the middle of this holiday and make sure we have the Christmas tree with all the lights and all the presents under
Right.
it, because that is Christ.
As
and
if what is on
Christmas.
Hallmark cards is going to impact the world more than how I live.
Yeah. But I mean, it's kind of funny though. We'd sit there and say, make sure you keep Christ in Christmas. And I understand. I think Jesus is central to the story of Christmas, and
Correct.
it will be in our Christmas experiences and all of that. But what's funny is that we celebrate all the other aspects of Christmas that have nothing to do with Jesus.
Right.
But then on the other end, we're yelling, keep Christ in Christmas. So I understand all that. But anyway, so I just thought it is holiday season is upon us, and
It
Christmas
is.
time.
It
And
is.
I noticed that, like, I don't know how you guys feel around Christmas. Our family was talking about this a while ago, and I love this time of year. I love the weather changing. I love it getting colder. I don't like it when it gets real cold. It's been a little cold lately, but I like
Yeah,
it
these
when
last
it.
few days have been-
I would be good if it, like, me personally, if it got down to the 40s, 50s, and didn't get any colder. But
Yeah.
I do like
For a couple weeks.
Yeah, I don't even care. It wouldn't bother me even through the winter. It's just when you get to the cold
You don't
stuff.
want a good Christmas snow?
Once or twice.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm good I'm good with snow around Christmas time. I actually am. I feel like it all fits into the feels
does.
of the holiday.
It
I
does.
think there's something about the cool weather, hot chocolate,
Fire.
Christmas lights, a fire going, that just add to the coziness of the holidays.
It was really cool this time last year. After we were, I think it was when we were wrapping up our last Christmas
It
experience.
started snowing.
We have those big
Yeah.
glass windows.
Yeah.
And we come out, and it felt like a Christmas
It
movie.
did.
It is just. It was
And I
awesome.
love that.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm good if it were like right after Christmas or even after New Year. Fine. You can say if it went right to the 60s and 70s for the rest of the year in sunshine. I'd be,
Yes.
or not the rest of the year, but the winter. I would love that. But I do like it because I think it adds to kind of the feeling
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the season. There is something, I don't ever feel a season much like I do Christmas season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Winter's like
Thanksgiving.
it's like this dense season.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like there's just a
Dense.
lot.
The air is dense.
It's just
It's-
dense.
Food,
People
feel
huddle in
dense.
coffee shops
Yeah.
and restaurants.
Cozy, warm.
It's people think
Festive.
more, feel more. Like
yeah.
I just feel like it's
There is something about it, and so I think when I was thinking about this in the holidays, here's what I was thinking. Whenever you feel more, because you do, I think there's something about just even the decor, the decorations, the presents, the way it is in the shopping malls, and just how you can feel the
Yes.
energy.
Yeah.
There's an energy
Yeah.
when you
Right.
go into these spaces,
Right.
and so I think you feel more, and I think you feel really high highs. right? You feel it feels festive. You go over and hang out with family. There's giving gifts. It's fun. We have great Christmas Eve at night is always
You're
fun. My wife still buys pajamas for my grown kids.
Mm.
Still, and
Pajamas.
Good for you?
husbands. No. Every once in a while she give me pants, but I tell her don't spend money on me with pajamas. I'm not wearing them. And
Are we attacking Russia right now?
I don't know. I hear a lot of jets flying overhead. And so you have all those feels that are great when life is great.
Yeah.
But I think we have to understand that in a season where we all talk about how much we feel the season, it feels great. There are also a lot of people that feel the lows are really low.
Yeah.
And I think it can be easy sometimes that if you're not in a place like that, that we can really kind of be oblivious to how a lot of people feel in this season. They talk about a blue Christmas or people. And I think about the last, last 2 Christmases,
Right.
this one, and I should say the last one, and going through this pandemic, and you think about how many lives have been lost. And, I remember like early in the first half of the year, 2/3 year, I was kind of like, I don't personally know anyone that's died from COVID. I can't say that today.
Yeah.
My guess is you guys can't say that either.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we all know people, maybe you've had close people and friends, and so all of a sudden it just gets real. And so the time when you think about family and gathering and fun and all this, and now you got one less seat at the dinner table for Christmas dinner or something, it gets real. And so I just thought maybe it would be important to talk about it. I think people that are dealing with depression or anxiety are probably going to feel it in a greater level during the season.
Yeah.
I felt that in a very keen way Thanksgiving, because it was actually in early December of last year that my uncle died of COVID. And so Thanksgiving is always usually that aunt and uncle, that side of the family.
Yeah.
So we had them all over at our house, which usually would be at their house. And it was actually, it was weird. It was a lot of, as life is many times, a lot of joy and sorrow mingled.
Yeah.
Like it was actually a good time. Spirits were, because I wondered how it would be. Spirits were surprisingly high, but then I'm looking over at my aunt at times, and I see her in moments kind of disappear in her own mind. And I'm like, this is her first Thanksgiving
That's tough.
without her husband.
Yeah.
And you could feel it. And, and they start talking, and they start telling stories. And my mom's sitting by me, and, to hear your mom cry, my mom starts tearing up, telling stories about him. And you can tell it's still tough. I just think whether it's relational or it's, this time last year, in a couple of the episodes I talked about it, but this time last year, for some reason, was really kind of emotionally tough for me. It was, I think I still hadn't seen my parents all year.
Yeah.
It was a full year of quarantine, live alone, had some interpersonal stuff. And it was just one of those, I remember I was just like unusually low for me. And so it's an interesting thing to navigate depending on where people are in their season of life and what's going on.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things too where anytime you're mixing that with also family dynamics.
Yeah.
And the things that come into play with that. I know just anytime you get people together, especially with what we've walked through over the last year plus in our culture, where you have all sorts of hot button things that have really drawn these sharp cultural lines. And if it's true in our culture, I know it's true in our family experiences. And so, you could be experiencing just all the emotions that come from some of the things we've been talking about, but also stepping into very real moments where you're going to be interacting with people or different things that might think differently than you or might, just operate differently than you do. And it's always a crazy mixture when you bring those things together. And I think the one question that's worth asking is, what do you do when you begin to feel that way? Or
Well, I think we addressed a few different things. I think, just how do you make it through a season like this, depending on your, where you come from,
Right.
and how do you? I think it's important if you're not in a place where you've experienced that loss, or, life is maybe good for you right now. I think it's important to be very cognizant of those around you that aren't.
Yeah.
I think if pay attention to family members that maybe have lost someone
Right.
in the season, because I know, like myself, I such a busy season for me and for our church and our family that I am just like I am focused the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think it's real easy for me to not maybe pause and go, I wonder how she's handling this right now.
Yeah.
What does it look like for me to maybe reach out and go, hey, I'm thinking about
Yeah.
you.
Right.
And I know this must be a really difficult time. And
Yeah.
or maybe somebody in your environment, your circle, that maybe they lost someone and they don't have family around,
Yeah.
or they don't have what they used to have. Maybe it's time to kind of open your thing and say, hey, why don't you come over
Yeah.
on Christmas Day? Or you know
Right.
what I think a lot of times we forget is, we can be sometimes so consumed, especially if you're a family and you got kids and you got all this stuff. You think about Christmas morning and you're doing all that and you have fun, but then there's the rest of that day. And it's like, hey, maybe there's somebody that you could reach out to. Maybe there's somebody you go, hey, do you want to go get lunch? What's
Right.
open? You
Wow.
know, where you go,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
Right.
I think it's important that we're cognizant of that,
Yeah.
that those around us that are maybe going through it. But then I think there's also the other side of that, which is how do we also handle being thrust into environments with, family and friends, knowing that relationships have been fractured over the last
Yeah.
year, 2 years.
Yeah.
How do we walk through that? And so, I guess maybe that is a great question for us, that maybe this will be helpful. Maybe you're
Yeah.
gonna be going to some family gatherings and it's been tense.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you manage the tension of those? So how have you managed the tension of walking into just environments and spaces? Like, you have any thoughts about that
Oh, wow.
tension?
Well, let's, like you said, it's a couple different things. So maybe with our collective minds together, we can put together a rough shot handbook of
Yeah.
surviving, navigating the holidays. I think number one, if you're in an emotionally low place, I think a few handles would be, one of the problems with big days is we put such expectation on it.
Yeah.
It's disappointing because we put this almost internal pressure that comes from societal pressure.
It's going to look a certain way.
it's gonna
feel
look
a certain way. All those things.
It felt this way, now it needs to feel this way. And then whatever feel like you're suffering loss of when you see other people in the Hallmark movies or other people that are enjoying what you don't have, is like salt in the wound.
Yeah.
So I think, if possible, an internal posture would be, I'm going to take the pressure off. This is a Tuesday. I'm going to make it through Tuesday. There's a Wednesday. I'm going to make it through Wednesday. Christmas is, if you're in a great place in life, soak up every moment.
Yeah.
But if you're in a lonely place, this is another day. You're going to get through this day.
Yeah.
There will be future Christmases where you're not going to feel that way and
Yeah.
that you're going to enjoy.
That's good.
So try to take your eyes off yourself. One, a really simple pick-me-up that helps is to serve others.
Yeah.
So one of especially if you're in a down season, one of the greatest contributors to your sadness is self-pity, because you're focusing on yourself. So if there's a way to serve others. Another thing is, don't isolate. I mentioned this in one of the other podcasts, but I've tried to make a more concerted effort, especially in seasons where maybe I don't feel like being around community, unless it's something that's going to drain me. But if it's going to be around people that I know love me, that there's going to be good laughter, good food, good time. I've tried to make myself choose to lean in, even if I don't internally feel like it.
Yeah. That's
So
good.
don't isolate. Try not to put the focus on yourself. Try to alleviate the pressure, and be okay. Name what you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Process with
Well, I
someone
was
what you
gonna
feel.
say-
Yeah, that's what I was going to add. I was going to say that for me, I know that a lot of times my emotions don't come out in the form of maybe sadness or loneliness or things like that. It can come through in feelings of like hurry or stress. Like I feel like I'm running around trying to do everything, or just anger. Like I
Yeah.
find myself frustrated
Yeah.
with either my spouse or my kids
Yeah.
or what I'm doing, and it's not because of what they're doing that is causing that, but it's because of maybe something I'm feeling because of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so slowing down to take time to realize, where is your pain coming from, or
Right.
where is that emotion coming from? That's something I think we all should be doing.
Yeah, I
this
think
season.
too, one of the things that if you're going to some family gatherings where there is a change in whether it's maybe someone's passed away, because we've all been in those situations where the family looks different.
Yeah.
And especially when it's new. I remember doing that when, like, we would do family gatherings with my wife's grandparents, and then one passes away, then her grandmother passed away, and then those kind of moments felt a little bit different. Then her grandfather passed away. You know what I mean? And so those gatherings kind of felt different. I think one of the things I'd add to that is, especially if there's someone there it's fresh and a part of it. I just thinking not trying to ignore it,
Right.
but rather like, how can you honor
Right.
that person or the memory of that person in those kind of seasons and moments? It won't be like that forever.
Right.
But I do think it's like you say, naming it. It's like, I think you can have both. There can be levels of experiencing both sadness and joy at the same
Yes.
time.
Right.
Yeah.
I know maybe you don't feel like you can, but there are ways that you can do that.
Yeah.
There can be the joy of the memory of them and what you had, but there's the sadness that they're not there. And you hope
Yeah.
over time that the sadness begins to dissipate, and hopefully just its joy restores again in their memory. But I do think that's my personal. I think is allowing it to be real
And I
in that
think-
moment and
I think
celebrate
that
them.
tension is so important because, and again, it depends on the depth of the loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's a spouse of 50 years and you just lost them last week,
Yeah.
don't put pressure on yourself of how you need to feel.
Yeah.
But if you are at a low grade level sadness, allow yourself the space to grieve in a healthy way.
Right.
But at the same time, also keep yourself a little bit of accountability of perspective.
Yeah.
Because if you're not careful, if you're so focused on what you've lost, it can blind you to what you still have, and you miss
Right.
precious moments.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times, like in high school or college, like I was just stuck in my head because the loss of a relationship with a girl, and looking back, thinking, how many people would have killed to have their parents with them like that? I was around family. I was in precious moments I wouldn't get back with loved ones and family, but I missed those moments because I was in my head about what I didn't have. And so I think it's really important to keep that healthy balance
Yeah.
of I'm going to allow myself space to feel what I feel, but I'm also going to choose to the best of my ability, depending on the depth of the circumstance and what I'm going through, to be able to lean into the moment, not isolate,
Right.
not miss the precious moments I may never get back with the people that I love.
That's
Right.
good.
On the flip side, I think you might not be going through that yourself, but you could be, like you said, there could be someone in your family who's walking through that, or you could have friends or coworkers or even other people who have experienced that. And I think slowing down to notice those people
Yeah.
and to notice those things. I mean, like you said, what does it look like to pause in the middle of a busy season in which culturally we tend to make it really about ourselves and what we're
Right.
doing and what we're doing as a family, where we're going, and say, no, I'm going to stop and I'm going to just take stock of what people have gone through as I'm stepping
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
a room,
That's good.
and how
Yeah.
and just carrying that mindset of like, hey, I'm going to go into this place. How can I be a light
Yeah.
in this place
good.
and be someone who can bring joy and hope from the season? Because Christmas can be a season full of joy and
Right.
hope.
Yeah.
And how can I bring that into the room
Well-
that I'm
Well,
coming
it sounds really
into?
spiritual, but stay anchored in. I hate to even say the reason for the season.
No, say it. I love
but-
it. The reason for the season.
But-
Jesus is the reason for the season.
But I mean, Christmas, Jesus entered humanity's mess
Yes.
Right.
in what was not a Hallmark movie
No.
moment.
Right.
And I think some of the times where the presence of Jesus and the love and hope that he offers can be sweetest
Right.
Yeah.
is actually in our most painful times.
agree.
Right.
To not run from him, but to say, I'm going to walk in the middle of this pain with his presence.
Yeah.
Through this season, the whole beauty of Christmas is, Emmanuel, God is with us. He's
Yeah.
with us in the good times. He's with us
Yeah.
in the bad times. That's the message of Christmas.
I also think that how you walk into every one of your, whether it's your family gatherings, your work gatherings, I think as well, there's the one side where people maybe experience loss or they're going through something, because it's not just always
Yeah.
it could be you lost a business over this season. It could be that you lost a marriage. It could be you lost a dream that you thought you were going to have and it didn't work out, So
Right.
I think there's a lot of different loss that we're all dealing with because of the pandemic and then life. And so I think being aware of that and bringing hope and encouragement into that. But I also think it's equally important to be aware of the environments we're walking into when we see the tension
Yeah.
of our
Yes.
culture today. And I think
Yes.
so. It's like if we're going to look at two sides of like, I'm going to walk into this with love and knowing that there are people who are hurting. I'm also going to walk into the situations that are tense because of ideologies, because of political division, because of whatever, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to walk into those with love, and I'm not going to use family gatherings as the place where I'm going to get my point across that I've been sitting on for 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I can't wait until I get together so I could tell them, it's
Pastor
like,
Zachary, do you have any family tensions or disagreements?
Definitely family tension.
Tell us about some of these.
I don't. That's interesting. I love to hear it.
You saying you don't? I think we all do.
No, I didn't say I don't.
No,
He said he doesn't. I said I want to hear about them.
You want to hear about them?
Yes.
Maybe that's a story for another day.
Oh, okay.
What I was going to say was, I think, and this is not my original idea, so I don't want to take credit for it, but I also don't remember
You're
my
welcome.
source.
You can use it.
But I'm just going to go ahead and say
Go
it.
ahead.
Say hope for the winners. Have
No,
hope.
not hopefully for
Okay.
oh, book plug right there. Shameless book plug.
No, I thought you were going to say, here's how to have hope for the wilderness. I'm like,
There you go.
take it, steal
No,
it, use it.
okay, no, here's what I was going to say. It's really easy when you're walking into those moments that are full of tension, especially when you're seeing family members that maybe you only see once or twice a year, to view them based off their social media feed from the whole year. So you walk into that room or environment and you don't see them.
Yeah.
You just see what they've been posting all year.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, if that's you and that's what you're carrying into a space, you're probably not carrying a healthy view or
You're definitely not carrying the whole picture.
the whole picture,
Right.
yes, into that room. And so I just want to encourage you, what does it look like as you're stepping into those moments, not to just bring that into it, but just to bring the fact that, hey, there's another human here who has their own perspectives and their own reasons for maybe why they're posting or doing what they're doing, and not just assume all these things as you're stepping into those rooms.
Either of you remember or heard the name Kirsten Powers? Do you remember this name?
No.
So she was a Fox News host contributor for many, many years. I mean, people across the board politically, but generally speaking, Fox News conservative, CNN more liberal.
Really?
Like, yeah, I mean,
Never heard that before.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, unless you're someone,
I'm
anyways.
just kidding. Yes.
But she was probably one of the more nuanced contributors. In fact, her and I don't know if anybody remembers Bill O'Reilly. They'd get in little debates every once in a while. Anyways, she ended up stepping away from Fox News. She's a CNN contributor, and I think even on the CNN side, she's one of their more nuanced. But anyway, she always reminded me of my sister, and I just loved how whatever network she was working for, she was kind of the devil's advocate. And she always came across to me as very articulate, winsome, nuanced, intelligent. She ended up, on a faith perspective, interesting note, becoming a Christian about 7 years ago. But I recently on Ian Cron, who kind of repopularized the whole Enneagram thing. He had a podcast where he had her on the other day, and she was sharing about how throughout COVID, people would always comment about how intelligent, how respectful, how they much appreciate her candor, her demeanor, her approach.
Yeah.
She said, but what they didn't realize is internally, even though she knew how to project that, she had become really bitter and angry towards the extremes. She'd become very judgmental, very harsh, and she did not like what was happening to her. So anyways, out of this, she went on a journey. The whole episode is fascinating. And I don't know if this episode will come out in time for anybody to order this in case they wanted to, but she ended up writing a book on how to navigate. It's called like Grace and something with the title Grace in it. But Kirsten Powers, you should Google it. And it's how to, with family tensions, friend tensions, how to navigate that, especially in holidays and reunions.
Man, we need to have her on here.
I know,
She
I
sounds
know.
like the expert.
So I haven't
She is
read it
expert.
yet, but
Yeah.
but it is such a great thing too, because I know we've had conversations about this, and we've all. So I mean, what if you were to put some handles on how do you? I mean, the cliches are, of course, when you have to decide. At the end of the day, when you're going into your friendships and relationships and family, are you trying to win the argument or win the relationship?
Right.
Are you going to go with humility? Or are you going with love? Are you going in to make a point? Are you going into? And we know all that, but what are some practical ways to maybe philosophically, even practically approach those kind of moments? Because there's been so many articles lately that family tensions politically are the worst they've been in decades.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, families are divided. I saw something, regardless of whether you like Trump or hate Trump, I saw something 6 months ago that said the Trump presidency has ended, and so have many relationships. And we live in times that wherever you're at on the spectrum, relationships are fractured, tense, lifelong ones, family ones. And so I'm curious if we were to try to rough in a handbook of some practicals of how to navigate that, what would y'all?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't bring stuff up if you don't have to, right?
Yes, yes.
I mean, that's just me. I wouldn't bring things up, but I think one of the things that we can do is, again, this is almost you have to posture yourself. Where can we find agreement?
Yeah.
And I think rather than highlighting where we disagree, you can highlight what you do agree on.
Yeah.
And so even if there are parts inside of you that go, oh, I just want to say something to that, and I want to speak to that, at the end of the day, I would imagine that we can probably, if you were to talk long enough and we were all open and honest enough, we could probably all find something we agree on,
Yes.
even in the very divisive time.
We all have more common ground than we have
We
differences.
do, but we never do it. And I think it can start, and one of the ways we can do it that probably diffuses the tension is if we celebrate what we agree on.
Yeah.
So even if the conversation comes up and it's like, man, I do not agree with what they're saying on this and this, but then they say this, and you kind of do partially agree. Say you can in that moment, I think, find the common ground, And so I think I just don't think we try hard enough.
Right.
Right.
So to me, I think if you do that, I think that's a great first start. That's the first step that I would do. Look for common ground doing there. I wouldn't bring stuff up personally.
Yeah, but I'm going to play devil's advocate on
yeah.
that, though.
Okay.
Or go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say, kind of in line with that, I don't know how this is going to come out, but I think for me, it's almost posturing myself in such a way that, I'm not going to look to start a fight or
Just
to,
end
to,
it.
to jump into
Yeah.
I'm gonna end it.
Girl
Yes,
dad got
sir.
muscles.
Yeah, exactly. No, but but
What does that mean?
But not being afraid when you're asked a question.
Yeah.
So like be I think sometimes you can go into these types of moments almost like deer in the headlights, like I'm just hoping no one talks to me about this.
And then it becomes more tense.
And
Yeah.
that becomes more tense.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if you're walking into this environment, you probably know what the hot button topics are. You probably
Right.
know what things are going to come up. Just be ready
Probably
and
cricket.
prepared, like to give a response
Yes.
when something
Yeah.
And
comes
that's
up.
great because prepare yourself emotionally and decide
Correct.
ahead
Yes.
of time.
Correct.
I'm not going to lose it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that we all hopefully are adults enough to have self control.
Yeah.
Correct.
And not yell and not
Yeah.
devolve into saying things we're going to regret.
good.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but-
people are going to bait you.
and-
Yeah.
There's certain people.
But the
that
reason I want to
Yes.
nuance that because there is wisdom in there's certain topics maybe everybody is so opinionated
Yeah.
and so that you just can't bring it up without it being like a ticking time bomb. But I think I've made the mistake I've noticed in the last year and a half on the other end, where I feel like at times with lifelong friends or family, I'm so like I know this is not going to go well that I've avoided it, to where it actually became this elephant in the corner that I think put an even bigger wedge. Because we always knew there was something unspoken that we needed to at least.
Yeah, but I'm not sure holiday parties are the place
No,
to
no,
do
no.
that.
Exactly.
That's my
Right.
point. I wouldn't
Right.
bring it up.
What I was going to nuance is if there's a way without it ruining the friendship,
Yeah.
without it ruining the relationship ahead of time, to maybe even just say, okay, we're going to be getting together this next week. Hey, how's it going? Like you said, celebrate more of what you have in common, but just be like, hey, like I know we have differences on this.
Right.
Maybe even if
So we should set a time. We should get together.
But maybe if
Duke it
even if
out.
there's just a preliminary
Yeah.
breaking of the ice and acknowledging,
Yeah.
hey, we know we
Yeah.
disagree on this.
Yeah.
But going into maybe it's something as simple as, hey, we probably are both at a place of our emotional height in this right now is to a place where we're not ready to talk about it yet. But before we go into this weekend at Christmas, can we just at least have a preliminary conversation to acknowledge we have differences, but we got way more in common than anything else.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell you, I care way more about you and who you are in my eyes, and just celebrate. And I don't know if there's a way to affirm each other, because what you said is true. It is very hard to not draw assumptions and emotions and feelings when that person, that person that to you is that guy or that girl that's always posting that kind of stuff that makes you eye roll and cringe and die inside.
Right.
It is really hard if you see them, especially on a consistent basis, post that, to not have a new image in your mind that hangs over that person instead of the human being that you've come to love and to know, and that they may view life differently than you. But that doesn't mean they're not valuable or their heart's not good or they're
I like the point. I think that's a great point to prepare something before you go in. Like you can't always prepare for everything, but I think you can prepare emotionally to go. And you know what? I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna get into these conversations, and because a lot of times people who share common views when you get into these kind of gatherings, they end up talking about it because they love it, because there's something about when everybody at the table agrees with what you agree with, that it's fun because the enemy isn't there and you can dehumanize them, so then you can just kind of go, can you believe it? I can't believe it, and so we all kind of love to do that. You find a brotherhood, a commonality whenever there. What's interesting is when people are having those conversations, because a lot of times when people have those kind of conversations without being aware that those around them may not share those same feeling, because we all agree everything's great, and those around don't. I think those are the moments where you choose and you go, okay, I'm not going to step into this just to make a point. I'm going to use wisdom.
Right.
Just, I think that's the biggest thing. Use wisdom, but you have to pre-decide.
Yes.
Wisdom is pre-deciding.
Yes.
It's not allowing emotions to take over. It's just,
on?
I'm not, and I agree with you. It's like, hey, if somebody says, what do you think about so-and-so? Then,
Don't be afraid to be honest.
Then have an answer. Say, I know this and this, but do it with humility.
Right.
Don't do it in an antagonistic way where you're going to try to pick a fight and try to and say something that is really there.
Correct.
We all know what it's like to practice the conversations of how we want to tell people off.
Oh yeah.
But what if we practice the conversations of how we're going to diffuse?
Yeah.
And how we're going to. And sorry, I wanted to look up in case anybody wanted. This is Kirsten Powers' the book. It's called Saving Grace. It does have that phrase we love, "Speak Your Truth," which I don't love that, but the subtitle is "Speak Your Truth, Stay Centered, and Learn to Coexist with People Who Drive You Nuts." Saving Grace by Kirsten Powers. Yeah,
we should do an episode on that.
That'd be good.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
We should do an episode on truth, speaking your own truth. That would be great. We should do that.
That would be good. Like,
what
what is truth?
Yeah, we should do that. We'll do that maybe the next one.
Yes.
We'll do another one. Yes. But I agree. I think these are all really good things. I think the important thing for us just to remember is that how we carry ourselves into those personal gatherings and these things will leave a mark. You're going to leave a mark of yourself that they're going to remember, regardless of what you do post, that's going to carry to the next time.
Yep. I
think that's important.
I know you're wrapping up, but that there is something you just said related to that last time I was in Greenville, I tried to remind myself I think it's been helpful for me. And what I've tried to tell myself is this. And this first part may not be true, but what I tell myself is 5 or 10 years from now, this political climate will probably look different.
Yeah.
The circumstance will probably look different.
It's good.
But how I navigate this relationally right now will impact where we are in 5 or 10 years.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And so trying to keep that in my mind, because I feel so passionate about this issue right now, but I felt really passionate about a different issue a year ago.
Or you can feel really passionate about this candidate.
Right.
That I don't care if they get elected twice.
Right.
They're not going to be around, but they're still going to be your family member.
Right. But is that worth having one less valuable human being in my life?
Yeah.
Right.
Because I can't control my emotions and how I feel about that in this moment.
Right.
Yeah. And I think always remembering that the goal of life should be, at least I think, is elevate, especially in this arena, put people before politics.
Yeah. That's good.
Put people before your preferences.
Yeah.
So if we would operate with that order, that, they, like you said, they matter to me, their relationship matters to me. I think what is so hard is that prior to the last year and a half, that we had a picture of the people in our lives that they all thought the same way and believed what we did, and then the moment they didn't, they changed for us.
Yeah.
and it was like, okay, I don't know that I like them as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these are some of the things that we
Yeah.
did, and it's because it never came out, and because
Yeah.
we were never put into an environment, pressure cooker,
Yeah.
where what you saw came out. And so I think we need to do the work of trying to actually restore
Yeah.
what was there before. And I
Yeah.
think if we do, we'll get back to that place. It's not a naive thing, but we'll get back to that place of seeing the person and not the politics. And
Yeah.
because everybody that has certain preferences, certain politics, we have to understand it has a lot to do
Yeah.
with where they came from, has a lot to do with how they were raised,
Yep.
has a lot to do with things that might have happened in their life, and there's reasons why they hold those
Yep.
values. There's a reason why they hold those issues
Yeah.
so closely at hand. And if we can do that and see the person
Yeah.
through it, then I think it changes it.
Jesus said that, maybe this is the challenge for holiday season on this end. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, not blessed are the debate winners."
Yeah.
And if we can be the kind of people with enough emotional intelligence, enough personal self-control,
Yeah.
and enough spiritual depth to actually make peace, I think 5 years from now we'll be really, really happy about it.
I agree.
I love too, just to wrap that up, what Paul came along and said. He said, as far as it depends upon
Just
you,
think about that.
live in peace
with others.
with others. As far as it depends upon you.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. At the end of the day, you're going to go to some holiday functions, some gatherings. You're going to be around maybe family you haven't been around for a while. Your role to take into that as far as it depends on me.
Yep.
I am not responsible for what they say, but I am responsible for what I say in response
Right.
to what they say. So as far as it depends upon me, I'm going to live at peace, be at peace with everyone.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that to me should be kind of the marching orders as we kind of go in. And I think whether this season highlights a low point
Yeah.
in your life,
Right.
just want you to know that that we kind of did this episode because we wanted to at least acknowledge that for you and say, if you're someone who listens and you watch this and you feel lonely, you're going through something, our heart goes out to you in this season, and we want to make sure that we see you. And if you don't have a community that knows you and sees you, then come to X Church and come to Christmas, and you're going to find people who are going to love you and see you.
Yeah.
And if you're going to walk into a Christmas function, let's do it with love, and let's do it in a way that honors Christ. I mean, we're here to celebrate his birthday. It's the worst thing we can do is go in to celebrate his birthday and then not live in a way that honors him.
Yeah.
So, anyways, happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Is
And
Alpha
you're going to
top 5
say,
Christmas
going to
movie?
say what to me?
Merry Christmas.
No, you were going to say what to me?
Merry
And a Happy
Christmas.
New Year.
And Happy New Year.
And you were going to say what to me?
I don't know.
Happy
What?
Hanukkah?
Happy
What were you going to
Hanukkah.
say?
I
Were you
don't
going to
know
say?
Anyways.
Okay. Anyways, no, we don't have Elf.
We don't have Elf.
Elf on the Shelf? Or,
No,
Mensch on a Bench.
I was
We
gonna
don't have either of those.
I was gonna ask, is Elf a top 5 Christmas movie?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Elf's definitely a top
Pastor
5
Zach
Christmas
does
movie.
not like it.
Zachary,
It's
yeah.
not. It's
Well,
not. That's a debate for another time.
okay. But we all know it's true. So,
not true.
anyways, we know that you have a really bad taste in Christmas music
Yeah.
and Christmas
I
movies. So,
don't.
anyways,
I don't.
so hey, thank you for hanging with us. We just want to say happy holidays on behalf of the X Podcast. We're so glad to have you with us. And hey, if you know somebody that maybe is going through kind of a low season around the holidays, maybe you would share this episode with them, and maybe just even in the conversation, it will at least encourage them, give them a little bit of a different perspective, and maybe send this episode to your family members before the family
That's an
gathering
idea.
There you
and
go.
say, hey guys, we want you all to watch or listen to this episode before we get together so we can have a holly jolly Christmas. Anyways, we love you guys. Thank you for tuning in as always. Subscribe, and we would love for you to share it with anybody and everybody. Rate, review. It helps us get the word out. Anyways, until next time, we'll see you later.